Welcome to the Cherrywood Podcast.
Please like, share and subscribe.
Right, hello everyone. We're here with Miranda, and Miranda's going to tell us who she is. What's your name? Where you come from?
Okay.
Tonight, Matthew.
It's like an inquisition. So I'm Miranda Chapman, and I'm the CEO of a full-service marketing agency called Pillory Barn.
Okay, brilliant. So, how did you come about forming Pillory Barn? Because I know you've got a bit of a past. That sounds wrong, Miranda, when I say it like that. But, you know, I know you had a bit of a history with other things, and you could tell us about it if you want to. Yeah,
no, I'm very happy. It's a really lovely opportunity to credit the guy who actually founded the agency. So it's a guy called Roger Hills. He has been my long-term business partner for the last 23 years, and Roger founded the agency in 1983. So he had an agency background, proper art college trained, people like that are few and far between now. You know, he really is a guy that would focus on, you know, getting a line straight, getting a curve straight, you know, hand drawing. And I'd left London. So when I had my twins, they were just over a year old. And I don't know whether you could have worked in London with twins. I had to be there really early morning. I never finished work until I was told I was finished work. So I had to make a bit of a decision about, you know, did I move to London and stay in London, or did I come back home to Kent? So I took the right decision. I got a job here in Kent with the Kent Messenger Group.
Right.
I was really lucky to get a great job with them. And that's how I met Roger. So I had lots of different roles at the KM.
Did you know Matt Ramsden?
Matt really well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I know
I didn't
Matt
know how
really
long
well.
Matt had been there for.
Yeah.
So.
Matt, I actually left a little bit before Matt joined.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I kept a really good relationship with the KM and know lots of the journeys there. Know Matt particularly well through Medway.
Yeah.
Obviously. And one of the roles that I took at the KM, in fact, I was given the role. It was one of those, back in the day, you were told, you know, what to do, which was the contract I signed. And I went back into marketing. And again, back in the day, we were still launching newspapers. So you don't hear of that anymore.
No,
you hear of the opposite.
Yeah.
And we didn't really want anyone to know that we were launching new newspapers. So I had a job to go and find an agency that could do some real creative campaigning for us for the launch.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted the smallest creative outfit I could find, so that as few people knew about it as possible. So obviously, you know, we didn't really want our competitors to know that we were launching. It was called the Gravesend Messenger.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was born in Norfolk. I know the Gravesend Messenger. Yeah.
That was our first one.
Am I right in saying that blue writing on it, the Gravesend Messenger?
I think that's News Quest, actually, the reporter. Yeah.
Then there was the extra as well.
That was yellow and black. Yeah. No, ours was very, very definitely yellow and black.
Right, okay.
So KM colours.
Oh, yes, I remember it. Yeah.
And
is it still around or not?
There's an edition. Yeah. I mean, like all newspaper groups, for obvious reasons, you know, it's a really tight marketplace, isn't it? So they've sort of squashed their editions that they have, but they still cover local news, you know, for all, whether it's Dartford. We went on to launch the Dartford Messenger after that, and Roger was actually the creative that put together the campaign for us, and it was quite a raunchy campaign because it was a middle-aged couple sitting in bed reading the Messenger.
Oh, right. Okay.
And it really, back in the day, it caught people's eyes. It was on the side of bus stops.
Yeah.
It was on local buses. We had a proper launch campaign for it. And it did really well. You know, the community in Gravesend were desperate for their own edition, not being part of that wider Medway edition. They wanted something their own.
Because I think nowadays it's all these Facebook groups, isn't it? And you can get your local news on, what's happened down the road? Oh, so-and-so said this. And so-and-so. Yes, it is just a bit of gossip rather than actual news as such. But, I mean, it's just taken over.
And it's a right now thing, isn't it? Instant thing now.
Yeah, you don't have to wait for the paper to be... But to be fair to them, to Kent Messenger Group, and to all publications, their digital versions are brilliant. You can still get that instant access because you've got your phone, and you can just, whether it's Guardian, whether it's Kent Messenger Group, whether it's Times, you obviously have to choose, don't you, whether you want to pay for it or whether you want to get, an ad-laden version. I don't mind either.
That's life, isn't it? At the moment,
I'm afraid it is life. Yeah, it is.
You have the ad one for nothing, or you pay a bit. Yeah. So
this podcast has been brought to you by Snugdubs Camper Van Hire. That's snugdubs.co.uk.
Dimedici Associates, Chartered Structural and Civil Engineers. Visit their website on dimediciassociates.com.
Right at Home Medway, providers of safe and trusted quality care for adults in the comfort of their own home. Visit rightathome.co.uk/Medway or call them on 01634 979 000.
Are you looking for cleaning or facilities management? Clearwater Kent is your trusted local expert. From roofs and driveway cleaning to fully facilitated management, visit clearwaterkent.co.uk or call 01634 681 885.
Meet James Howard, a personal fitness coach based in Medway. James helps real people get stronger, fitter, and more confident without extreme diets or gimmicks. Visit jameshowardpt.co.uk or find James on Instagram at jameshowardpt to book your first session today.
Welcome to the Baseball Outlet. If you play baseball or softball in the UK, you know how hard it is to get the right gear. That's why we're here. We've been helping players across the country for years. Come and see us in store, visit us online, or give us a call.
So that's how I met Rog.
Yeah.
And I stayed at the KM for another, how many years? Another 4 years. And when the twins hit 7, I think as a mum, my husband's amazing, but I always said that if I thought they were starting to fail, I would stop doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it was a decision that I was going to make. Mark was at a point with his career where his was really taking off. It was my turn to perhaps take a little bit more of a back seat. So I did a really positive leave of the Kent Messenger Group. I did a 6-month, did more. I was on 3 months notice. I did 6 months in the end until they were able to, find somebody to sort of pick up the role that I was doing. And Rog is a very persuasive man. And he kept saying, come on, work with me. And I was like, no, I'm going to take a year out. I'm going to go back and go back to uni and I'm going to do some study. And then I did a little bit of freelance and I did a little bit more freelance. And then after about a year, we actually won a really big account for, they're now a significant regional law firm. So Bracious Law. And we were part of believe it or not, 14 people tendered for that work.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
And this was all you doing it sort of privately, not with a company?
Just with Rog.
Yeah.
And we put a creative campaign together for them. We had an idea for them and we went and pitched that idea and they loved it.
Wow.
And they actually said, I'll never forget this. And I'm still really, good colleagues with Joe Warby, who's their managing partner now. And I will often say to her, I credit Bracious for giving us a really good start as an agency. And they said that they chose us because we actually made them feel like we actually cared about them.
Yeah. I think it's about your networking ability with the client rather than what you can actually bring to the table. If they've got 10 people that can do exactly the same thing, they need to have that tiny little bit of, actually, they're my favourite because of the networking or because of the relationship they've come across you
could be the best in the world at something. If you can't get on with a group of people, then there's no point.
People by people.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
100%.
And being genuinely invested in their story at the time. I think that was also another thing that, not besmirching any other agency that went in there on the day, but all we had was us. There was just me and him. We didn't have any other employees. And that I'd experienced agencies when I worked in London. I'd been on the receiving end of agencies pitching to me. And I had certain ideas about how I'd want an agency to behave and the culture of an agency. You know, back in the day, back in London, it was quite cutthroat, necessarily so, probably, to be fair. But I wanted it to be a little bit different. I wanted to be able to have the time to invest in people's business stories and care about their business as much as they did, which sounds really soft, but it's worked for us, and it's still one of our metrics today is making sure that we take the time out to understand, why do people get out of bed in the morning? What's important to them? What does good look like? It's my favourite saying, to a client, what does good look like? And then we'll help you get there. So that's how I kind of arrived at it.
Where does the creativity come from? Because you've obviously had to campaign, you've had to have ideas on paper. Where does your creativity come from then? Because if someone says, I've got this project to do you initially think, oh, I could do this, I could do that? Or is it a process of thinking? So
I always forget to turn the podcast light on.
It's a really good question. Because
as he's breathing down my neck. Sorry.
Quite nice.
We've played cards right.
We've had that conversation. I'm a 50-50 person. So I'm 50% creative, but I'm definitely 50% scientific.
Okay.
Which I think has stood me in good stead for the running of the business part of it. I think the creative part probably comes from something as simple as I love the written word.
Right.
Always have done, right from being a small child. I would read the back of the Kellogg's box in the morning. Right from the moment I woke up, I read really early. I was a very early reader. And I think going into the media, you then pick up the other creative, it untaps the other creative parts in you. I was really lucky. I worked for News International.
Oh, right, okay.
So the Sunday Times, the Sun, the Times, back in the day, Today newspaper and News of the World.
Yes.
So you were surrounded by really clever journalists, by lots of agencies coming in and pitching various campaigns for various newspapers. So I don't think I could have had a better creative setting, to be fair with you, although it was also very cutthroat. And, I used to work in the commercial team, selling advertising. But I was also, again, very lucky in that they offered me lots of opportunities to do things like setting up supplements,
right,
working on new magazines. I worked on the Sunday Times Style supplement as part of the commercial team. So I think it kind of grew from there. And is our job still very creative? It's very digital.
I think AI will take the digital side away from it. I don't think it will take the creative side away from it. I think because it hasn't got a brain to think and visualize these things, because like in photography and videography, you still have to have someone behind the camera saying this is a good angle to film. I can't mess up and do this angle because the bride's head's cut off or something like that. You still have to have a visual aspect and a visual eye for these things, and I think AI will never replace that ever.
It hasn't got the empathy it thinks it's got.
No.
I know that it hasn't got the humour it thinks it's got. You get it to write a script, it is appalling, and I can't see it ever being able to, unless it copies a certain comedian or writer exactly. It would never come up with its own humour. Something completely different and revolutionary or something like that.
I think it's a good assistant.
Like I say, it's a great knee jerker. If I'm writing something. So even if I'm writing a script, I can put the script in and it would give you a couple of alternatives, maybe routes to go. They're never any good when it writes them itself, but it gives you a sort of option to go.
It makes a start for you.
It's handy, yeah. It's handy. It's a good bit of, bit of inspiration for you, really, more than anything.
I think I mean, I would never be so arrogant as to say, never. Well, would it, put the kibosh on an agency like ours? What I would say is that we are still about people.
Mm-hmm.
So everything we do, we start off with our clients. So on the way over here today, I was talking to one of my co-directors, Lisa. We're going off up to Hertfordshire in a couple of weeks' time to Dacorum Borough Council, and we're working on what they call inward investment campaign for them. And the starting point of that is talking to people who live and work in that area and pulling out what is great about it. If they're trying to convince other people to come to it versus any other region in the UK, they have to have a very clear, coherent and compelling story to say, why come here?
Yes.
AI is not going to give us that.
Yeah.
Sitting people down in a room, having a real good heart to heart in quite an organised fashion. There's a it's not programmatic, but there are certain questions we need to ask them, and there's certain answers that we need to receive. We can't preordain those, but we're hoping that we're going to get certain answers back, which then we take away, then we turn into the visual, creative messaging, and then that written content as well. So I think people, we're not, hopefully we're not going to be replaced by AI, and I think that's where we will continue to be a successful team of people because it's all about the people we're working with.
I think we briefly spoke about it last time, just you and I, about AI, where I feel we're about a year away from not being able to trust anything visual you see on social media now. And a part of me thinks that's a good thing because we believe social media too much at the moment. Now, if you're not sure if any video is real, when you get to that stage, then hopefully we'll be looking to take things from the actual horse's mouth rather than just what we see on social media.
Well, it's also not new because this morning, so the whole fake image thing, I was listening to the radio on the way over. Have you ever heard of the story about the two young cousins who took a photograph of the fairies at the bottom of their garden?
No.
Back in the...
I think I did.
30s. I think it was 30s.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's a real story.
Yeah.
And they cut images out of a berry book and put them on hat pins at the bottom of their garden by the stream, took photographs and embellished this whole thing about berries at the bottom of their garden.
Wow.
Loch Ness. That famous thing is just a boat, an old boat, end up sticking up out of the water. The famous shot of the Loch Ness monster.
And lots of famous people fell for it because it was that whole spiritual movement.
Yeah.
People wanted to believe.
It's a strike for me. Sorry.
That there is something else, something a little bit magical and mystical.
Yeah.
And particularly after the war, when people had lost loved ones and they couldn't put reason to it. They were saying this morning, the fake image is not new. It goes back a really long time. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if there are aliens, now is the time for the government to release stuff because we just won't believe it anyway.
Because I did.
It's just too good. The stuff that AI makes is just too good now.
I had to have the whole conversation with Ted last night because he was saying, "Oh, Mum, there was this guy, and I saw it on the TV, and he was doing this stunt where he was on this skateboard, and then he went under the car, and he was pretending to fix it, and then blah blah blah." And I went, "Probably not real, Ted." And he went, "Yeah, but it looked really real." I had to say to him, "It probably did look real, but AI can actually."
That is the worrying thing, isn't it? If a kid sees something that's literally impossible and tries to copy it.
That's the worrying thing. So
it's happened, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't cite you exact examples, but you read in the newspaper, you think, it's slippery slope, isn't it? But for now, we're very, very people focused, and long may that continue. Like you guys, what you do is very much about. It's the two of you, isn't it?
And I think that's, like you said, that's how you set a business. It's not about what you actually do as such. It's about who you are and how you represent the company. And we break up. I mean, we don't break up. So let me finish that sentence.
I didn't know that.
We make sure our clients are as relaxed as they can be. You know, having your photos taken all day is quite stressful. I wouldn't like
stressful.
it. I would hate it.
Very stressful.
But we try and make
we're
them as
entertainers
relaxed
as well. We purposely entertain. You know, we try and be light-hearted, joke, have a go at each other in front of them in a soft way. You know, I say like it's her first day. She's doing well, isn't she? And once they're laughing and joking, then that barrier's released, and we can take natural pictures of them.
Absolutely.
And we had it only the other day when we was talking to a couple, weren't we? And we were joking on. We didn't even see them. We was on the phone to them, and we could tell that they were happy straight away because we was making them laugh, keeping them happy. You know, and you've got them. Then there's a million other photographer, videographer companies, but you've got to be around. And we may not appeal. We may be on the phone to someone, and they're like, "Oh no, these two are a bit too comic for us." You know, we want it to be a bit more fair enough. Then there's someone out there for you. You know, that's the way it is. You know, and it's people. It is people. They're buying us.
I think 9 times out of 10 people would go for that relaxed.
Yes.
I don't know anybody who really likes having their photograph taken.
Well, it amazes. Like, I don't take a good picture of myself. I'm not great in photos. Not that great in person, but but I'm amazed. It doesn't bother me having my photo taken, though. I don't care. You know, I don't care about being on camera. But you'll be amazed. It's a high percentage of people just don't want to be photographed. No. And I blame filters for that as well.
Well, yeah, we see ourselves differently, don't we? You know, I can look in one mirror and go, oh, that's not too bad. And I can look in another and go, no. Especially my husband's bathroom mirror.
It's all about the lighting and where you're standing and everything like that. And
see, only today you said to me, I don't like that picture you posted of me. I said, you look stunning in it. Oh, no, I don't like it. Cheeks look fat. So I can't help if you've got the jawline of Buzz Lightyear.
My jawline.
Because I really help.
You're my self-confidence. But then you're trying, like, you say you've got twins. Are they girls, boys?
Boy, girl.
Right.
29, really? Yeah.
So did you have the whole, when they were growing up, of, I suppose social media wasn't really a massive thing.
You said they're 29 now?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, 30 in September. We were I think we timed, if you can time anything, we timed it right. They, Tom and Holly have never been into social media. There was a short period of time on Facebook. I think it's really interesting with that generation. Holly just had a new baby. She's not on Instagram. She accesses Instagram for advice about being a parent. She's not actively on Instagram. No. She doesn't post pictures of flow. She's not constantly posting, what they're doing, where they're going. And that Tom and Holly aren't unusual. Tom the same. They're too busy living their life.
Yeah.
Have they followed your footsteps at all, career-wise?
Completely and utterly different. Right. So Tom is a civil engineer. So he's a structural civil engineer up in London. He loves working up there. He loves the scale of the projects that he's working on. He's currently working on the old Lord Mayor's building. They've taken the central staircase out of that.
Oh, right, okay.
So in order for it to stay up, that was part of his job, was to sort of, stress the whole building to make sure that when the staircase came out, it still remained, the shell of the building. And Holly is a senior town planner. So she's the type of person who's going to be, looking at planning applications like at the back of your place here to see whether they are viable, whether they're not viable, whether they sit within local plans. Completely and utterly different. Their dad is, Mark is, he's in manufacturing. He's the MD of a manufacturing company. So, and they've both got 50-50 brains. They're both very creative in different ways. But they're both very scientific as well. So, was I a little bit disappointed they didn't want to come into this sector? A moment in time I was. But to be fair, the agency is going through succession at the moment. And we've got 3 directors who have come on board now as shareholders. So 2 of them, Mike and Julie. Lisa, I'm not sure you've met Lisa, but they are, we're going through a process at the moment where at some point the agency will be owned by different people. So I'm really proud of that. that we've been able to keep us going. You know, who would have thought that me and Roger, all that time ago, working with what he had established, it was a lifestyle business when I joined him.
Right.
And now it's definitely not a lifestyle business. We're working across the UK.
So what would your normal client be, would you say?
Lots of public sector.
Right.
We love public sector.
Yeah.
People have often said, oh, you know, aren't you a little bit too reliant on them? You know, particularly with what's going on at the moment with local government reorganisation. You know, budgets have been absolutely scraped back. But there's always change happening in public sector. Always. And there's always somebody out there who needs some consultancy. They need to take some work outside of their own teams because their comms teams are absolutely stacked doing the work that local authorities have to do, the statutory stuff, you know, the things, you know, keeping the public safe, keeping the public healthy, you know, making sure places look great, you know, they're tidy. If you think about waste, I mean, how many changes have happened with our bins? You know, comms teams are always having to work on that next version of put this in this bin, you know, that in that bin, don't put that in the bin at all. So we've survived, you know, for over 23 years, we've kept ourselves going. And through focusing on public sector, we've then specialised in placemaking, inward investment and regeneration projects.
Right.
And placemaking is probably the thing that really lights my heart up. It's being able to help a place articulate why it's a really good place to live, work, invest, play. So that whole tourism and inward investment and regeneration piece.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, the reason I think we've kept going for so long is that we will work with any business. So the other side of the portfolio, interestingly, we've got lots of tech clients at the moment. We're not a tech agency, but it's bringing in that very straightforward, non-technical view on a technical company, on an IT company, on a tech company. We're really great at making complex simple. So Mike, our creative and digital director, he's really good at stripping things back.
Right.
I have to say, I think Lisa's really good at it as well. You know, she actually loves, we're talking about it on the way over, she loves anything slightly technical. I love arts and culture projects as well. So we're working on a lovely project with Kent County Council at the moment well, it's not just Kent County Council, it's Kent County Council, Essex County Council, Sussex County Council, and all of the boroughs that are involved in it across that piece. And we're working on, it's called Create South East.
Okay.
So it's a programme funded by Arts Council to help businesses grow. If they're in the creative sector, how do they grow? You know, famously, you know, we don't earn a lot of money in our sector. It's not, you know, the biggest value in the world, but we are a high value sector when you look at GDP. You know, we are one of those sectors that are really adding to UK success story. So, you know, that's been a fabulous project for us to work on. We work with lots of third sector. So Eleanor Hospice is one of our clients.
Oh, right.
Okay.
We've worked with probably all of the hospices over the time that we've had the agency. We're working with a great charity called Head in the Game. So mental health. Originally started off as mental health for young men.
Yeah.
But it's really sort of mushroomed and grown. Mental health for all, really. I don't think there could probably be a better time for that. You know, it's tough out there at the moment, isn't it? You know, life isn't easy. Lots of stresses and strains. So we'll do anything.
Was it ever easy? It's just we're recognising it more now, I think. That's all it is. You know, that's what it is.
And it's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we recognise that.
Yeah, 100%. Right, I'm going to take you back now. About 20 years to when you was in your teens. There you go.
Nice.
What did you feel you wanted to be when you was a child, and how did?
Oh, that's really, really easy. So I'm from a military background. My mother was originally in the army. She met my dad. My dad actually completed extended service with the British Army.
Wow. Where was you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Woolwich in London.
Oh, right, okay.
In a military hospital.
Right.
And pretty quickly, Dad was posted to Germany.
Right.
So from 7 to 17, we lived in Germany.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I came home once.
You're fluent.
Do you know when we lived out there, colloquial language, so
Right.
language that you picked up from,
Yeah.
living with German people who I love, and yes, I took O-level German. I got quite a good pass, but unfortunately, we had to come home when I was 17. So we actually had a really sad family tragedy. Don't talk about it very much, but my mum's mum committed suicide.
Oh dear.
So we had to come home. And that was a shock to me. I didn't want to come home, but I understood why we had to come home. So up until that point, I would have gone into the British Army.
Right.
Like Dad. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Really? Yeah.
Wanted to go into the intelligence
It's what you know,
school.
isn't it? It's all what you know. Yeah.
But what a great lifestyle. There's nothing to not like about. I don't know what it's like now.
It's the intelligence, right?
I want to go into intelligence school. Yeah, I would have had to go to university.
Yeah.
All of that was stopped because of what happened in the family, and that was a real shock to suddenly be knocked off course. So it was all a bit messy, if I'm honest. And I met my husband. Now my husband. I've been with Mark since I was 18.
Oh, right. Okay. So within the year of coming back, basically.
Yeah. Met him very quickly through a school friend. We went on a blind date. It didn't happen instantly, but after about 3-4 months.
Took the masks off after that, 3 or 4 months.
And we had to get work. It was 1982, 83. There was no sitting around on our hands. Parents, were kind of like, you got to go out to work. And interestingly, I've been working on this, the bid for Chassimers Town and Culture bid, as just as part of, I went to school here for a year. Got a long history with Chatham. The family have a long history with Chatham. So just in a pro bono capacity, I've been sort of enthusiastically throwing myself into that bid. And when I started to think about it, that's where I had my first job, was in the Pentagon Centre.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
I went to retail like most people did back in the day. It's the only job I could get. I didn't have a degree.
That was when Chatham was like, let's go to Chatham. It was, wasn't it? That was the first McDonald's as well around.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid going there for birthday parties to that McDonald's. It was the only one.
Yeah.
And then over the road from that was that department store, wasn't it?
Bentos?
Something like
Orders.
that. Orders, that was it.
I think it did both, didn't it?
You felt like you was in America in one of their big department stores. Did you ever go in that, Rach? Was you old enough for that shop?
I think I was a Debenhams, or whatever, so no, maybe not.
I'm going to get that a little bit closer to you because you're so softly spoken.
Yeah.
She's lovely, unlike my wife, who's,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you're and I learnt last night, I was at the Chesham Historic Dockyard last night because there was an engagement workshop, and I mean the things that people were coming out with about Chatham, it actually can claim to be one of the first Chinese restaurants.
Oh, really?
In the UK.
Okay, which one do you know?
I've got no idea. No idea.
Right, in the UK, really?
So Chinese New Year here,
Yes,
in the Medway
it's
towns
quite
is
big,
huge,
isn't it?
isn't
Yeah.
And that was all apparently on the back of a long history of the guy that was speaking actually said it was the Hong Kong community coming into the Medway town, so
Right.
very specifically. And when we've had a long history, haven't we, with Hong Kong of bringing the Hong Kong community into the UK, which can only be good for us, because some of our best restaurants, aren't they, are Chinese's. But that was okay. I was steered off course.
You're making me hungry now, but carry on.
But I ended up in retail. I then went to work for a local company. And it was my father actually who said, "Look, you've got to stop mucking about now." He wasn't very impressed with my career path, and he said, "You need to get a proper job. you need to go to London. And he found an advertisement in the Times newspaper for News International.
So this was still in the 80s, I suppose. Yeah. Okay.
84 at this point. 84, 85. And the important part here is I did not have a degree.
Right. Okay.
So I went up to, I applied for this job, went up to London, went to this big hotel, and there were literally almost like 2 doors. This door for people that didn't have a degree, this door for people who did have a degree. And my day was a day of psychometric testing all day, literally all day. Written tests, team tests where you had to, build the bridge across the room. Working with others that you'd never met before. And I didn't know how I was doing. I had no idea. I was just having a bit of fun, to be honest with you, trying to tick the box for my dad. Yes, Dad, I went up, I had the interview. Sadly, I didn't get the job.
The thing is, if you've got that frame of mind, you're more relaxed and you're more yourself and you're probably achieving more than the nervous ones.
Well, I genuinely did not know how I had performed. And at the end of the day, we were all told to go, well, some of us were told to go to a room, and it was whittling as the day went along. And I was then called into a smaller room in this hotel, and there was the most glamorous woman sitting behind a desk, blonde, slim, beautiful suit. And she stood up, shook my hand, and she said, hello, I'm Pamela Hamilton Dick. That genuinely was her name. And we both sat down, and she said, well, darling, you've done really well today. You performed superbly, and I'd like to offer you the job as a classified advertising executive. Wow. And I was like, oh wow, thanks very much. This is amazing.
So how old were you then?
21.
Right, okay.
21, just over 21. Yeah, 21. Yeah. And she said, I'm pleased to tell you that, your starting salary will be £18,000 a year, and you'll have 6 weeks holiday. And I said, oh, thank you very much. I said, but I won't be needing all of the holiday.
That's so sweet.
And she said, no, darling, you will be needing all of the holiday because we work you hard here.
Right.
And that was really it.
That was it. Wow.
And did you work with her a lot or not really? Was she quite high up?
Really senior. Yeah. Really senior. I mean, it was not a nice job, to be fair. It was up. We lived in Chatham. We lived in Luton. So that was a train journey. So walk to the train station, catch the early train out, be in work at your desk for latest 8:15.
Wow.
So that was a train into Cannon Street, walk from Cannon Street all the way to Wapping High Road to be in work for 8:15. And I was in what they called hatched, matched and dispatched. So births, deaths and marriages.
Okay. Yeah.
Literally headset on with the little speaker thing. And good morning, Times newspapers.
Right.
How may I help you? And then someone would either place a birth notice, a death notice, or a marriage notice.
Right.
And I had to do that for 6 months flat out.
Oh my goodness.
There was no choice. That's where you started.
Wow.
It was gritty.
Did it drive you insane?
A little, if I'm honest, especially the death notices.
Yeah, I bet they hit you hard at first, but by the end of the 6 months,
I call it your onion layers. You build up your onion layers.
Resilience, for sure. Obviously the marriages were always really lovely, although, getting the names absolutely spot. So I can't do it anymore, but you had to learn the, what's the alphabet? The alpha, beta.
Yeah, the phonetic.
Phonetic. Yeah, you had to, learn that. That's the first thing you learn was getting that correct. People smoked in the office back then.
Yeah.
So you used to go in of a morning and there was a yellow fug on the polystyrene tiles.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
It was, very atmospheric. People always shouting at you, pick up the phone. We had this big, even back in the day, there was like the stock market ticker tape in the room. How many calls have you taken? How many calls have we lost? Because they were coming through thick and fast back in the day.
Can I ask you, was it, this is going to sound really sexist, was it mainly women that you were working with?
Mainly women.
Yeah.
We had a few guys, but mainly women. Yeah, and I'd never thought about it.
When was we allowed to? Well, did they stop us smoking at work? You'll be surprised that's post 2000, wasn't it?
Because I think they stopped everyone 2000, 2001 from smoking indoors at all, didn't they? I'm sure it was.
In pubs and
pubs.
Was that 2000, 2001?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think News International went earlier. I think they as a organisation, I think it was a mandatory thing. I think they stopped quite quickly,
especially around paper as well.
Oh, well, I've been in the paper industry for 35 years, and you could smoke at work there, but you was only allowed to smoke when the paper was still paper mache, basically, when it's still wet.
Yeah.
Once it got to the dry bit, that was it. Yeah.
I think from memory, it's a really good question. I think I don't remember tolerating it for very long, to be fair. And we also moved. We were in the old part of the building then, in what is known or was known as Pennington Street at Wapping. And you remember it was the time of the strikes, so it was a time that Murdoch. On my very first day, I was so green, so naive. Very first day at work, they said, we want you to meet at this certain point in Pennington Street. We're going to collect you all from there and we're going to put you on a bus. I crossed a picket line my first day of work. It was a small picket line at the time because it was dissipating. And, they pretty much won the battle. What people think of that, I don't have an opinion on it particularly. But, I crossed a bus where people were throwing things at it and didn't, what's this all about then? Didn't really think about it.
But it's not just that. London was a dangerous place back in the 80s as well, with IRA and things like that going on.
I was at work when they bombed Canary Wharf.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah.
We felt it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally just down the road through the Rotherhithe Tunnel, other side, we felt it, and couldn't go home that night.
Rachel was there through the
7-7. Yeah, we had an office above Aldgate East train station.
Yeah.
And I just remember because I was on reception and just people kept coming, phoning you up saying, where's my son? Is he at work yet? And because we were on a different level, we'd have to email, but then the email system went down and then it was something else. And then we had people come into our building and say, get away from all the windows. And it was really scary. And then by the end of it, my dad walked halfway across London because he worked the other side of London. No transport, obviously. He walked all the way, picked me and a girl who lived down this way up and just said, doesn't matter, we're going to walk to the train station, we'll get in on a first train this way and then we'll just find our way back home from then. So
catastrophic.
It was really scary because you didn't know what was going on. It wasn't, I know it was 2007. There wasn't a lot of social media, it wasn't like today where, you could go online and go, oh my God, this is happening down the road, blah, blah, blah. It was just a word of mouth, really. Someone said this, you're watching the news, someone at home phones up and says, this has happened, where's my son, where's my daughter? And I'm thinking, I don't know, I can't give you any information. And it's horrible way of thinking.
As horrendous that is, imagine that in Manhattan when it's an island and you've got bridges to get over as well.
That would be horrendous.
Yeah. God forbid that we ever have anything on that scale ever again. But it was the best thing I ever did. I didn't want to go and work in London. I had no thought about it. But I always thank my dad for pushing me. And of course, when you work for an organisation like News International, you get the best education. They educate you. They, there's always training. There's always courses to go on. And to be fair, they even taught me how to dress a little. You look around, don't you? And you think, actually, okay, look, some people might think it's conforming. It did actually teach me that. The old phrase was dress for the job you want, not the job you want.
You change to your environment. That's basically what it is. You change your environment, 100%.
Met the best people there. It was fun.
I bet you never went straight home after work either.
No, Mark used to come up a lot. It was easy to drive, from Kent to London.
It was, yeah.
And we hadn't, we weren't really thinking about family at all. We just made the best of that time. When I was promoted onto the Sun newspaper.
Oh, wow.
You would think that the Times and the Sunday Times would have been, the
promotion.
promotion. I was promoted onto the Sun. And again, I know that pastry girls, really controversial, but it was, that was a mechanic for that newspaper at the time. I'm glad it's not around now, but it was a mechanic at the time.
It's strange though, because when you're born into that, like I was, that was probably around, I don't know when page 3 started, but I was only ever knew a newspaper to have a page 3 in it. You're just used to it.
Like if we told our daughter now, she'd be like,
"Oh my God,
you can't have that."
And when I think about it,
objectification, it was.
Of course it was.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's unbelievable. And like, they weren't old in there either.
No.
Sam Fox was 16, wasn't she?
Yes. Yeah, Linda Lusardi.
Yeah, Linda Lusardi, yeah.
Yeah.
These brought me up through puberty. But that's the sad thing about it.
If you hear those two ladies talk about it, they talk about it with pride, and passion, because it was not something they were coerced into. It was a moment in time, but there was also around all of that there was another. There was Stringfellows.
Yeah.
So of course. The events at Stringfellows. So, would I ever, a military, forces child, an army brat, did I ever think I'd end up in Stringfellows? No. Did I enjoy it? Not really. But it's something you can just chalk up and tick off. And again, Mark was able to come to quite a lot of that, Talking about MR2s,
I've got a couple of MR2s.
There was one night where we'd been invited up to Stringfellows, and all of the football teams were in there.
Oh, right. Okay.
So the London clubs.
Yeah.
So you can imagine, can't you, what that was like on that night. And Mark's not a big drinker particularly, but had drunk across the night. And we parked the MR2 in Bow, where my boss lived, because we'd had a drink at her place beforehand. And that night, it was raining. It was biblical when we came out. And it was evident that Mark had been drinking because he was stumbling a little. So no taxi would stop and pick us up.
Right.
And the car was miles away. So I was struggling across London with him. I can't hold him up, but, I've got my arm through his. And in the end, I was able to knock on a taxi window. He had his sign saying not for hire. I said, please, please, please. He won't be sick. He's got really good gag reflex. He's great. He's going to be fine. It's only, not much further. It's only in Bow. And he got us to Bow. We get in the car. I lay the seat right down. And what does Mark do? Sick of the MRT.
Our daughter, was it Tilly? Yeah. Our daughter,
I don't know what you're going to
went into Rachel's parents had bought a brand new Audi TT. Brand new it was. It was like 2 days old, and she chundered it.
She was in the row. She loved it because she used to like Lightning McQueen and everything like that. That's what she called it. She was like, I love this. And then I think they picked her up from nursery or something. She went, I don't feel very well. Everywhere.
And it's hard to get it out, isn't it? It was really hard.
Just like, oh my God.
It was a TT Sport, wasn't it? Yeah. TT Sport. And it was 2 days in.
Everywhere.
But she was all right. Your mum was fine about it. You can't be annoyed with your granddaughter anyway. And then they bought another Audi, a big Audi, when we moved here. And we had to get rid of a massive pampas grass because we didn't want people to think we were swingers.
Oh, God.
This pampas grass was so big, we could see it from our bedroom window.
Yeah.
The first thing we did...
It wasn't even in the ground, was it?
It had grown so much over the years.
Self-composted as such?
It was a metre above the ground where it was just self-composting. Yeah, like you say. And we were cutting it like a cake.
Yeah.
And we put it all in their brand new other Audi. And that was their idea as well.
Messy as well. Really messy.
Well, the neighbours loved us immediately because at a certain time of the year, that blows all that fluff everywhere.
It does.
And then
it used to fill this whole road up with fluff.
Yeah.
But then that seeds. If you've got grass on the front of your garden,
They
those
grow,
little
don't they?
things are like
there it go everywhere.
balls,
Yeah.
and they'll seed
Yeah.
everywhere. So
Yeah, they loved us from
we
day one.
were the talk of the street.
And that's why we got an L-shaped drive, because that's where the Pampers
Where the Pampers was.
So I was like, oh, there's a couple of spaces for a couple of MR2s there, Miranda. I'll get them.
But it's those memories, isn't it?
Yeah.
You make those memories, and they're really strong still. Would I want it to be in London now? Lisa and I went up to London yesterday. We went to meet another agency that we work with, and I don't know whether you know, but the trains were a nightmare yesterday.
Oh, were
so
they?
the signal failure at Ebbsfleet.
Oh, right.
So I just about got back to Chesham Historic Dockyard. I was about 15 minutes late for this workshop. But poor Lisa, she couldn't get on the same train as me. She was an hour and a half sat at Ebbsfleet.
Oh,
and she texted me. She used to work in London, and she texted me and said, "Now I know why I don't work in London anymore." It only takes a couple of those times.
The thing is, companies must be forgiving, London companies, for that sort of stuff, because it's out of your control, isn't it?
Completely. Yeah.
But the news, I imagine the newspaper wasn't forgiving in the 80s about it.
Absolutely not. And it became a badge of honour to not be sick ever. When it snowed, to
still get in
somehow. So a little bit like your story, with your dad getting you back home, after a tragedy, a catastrophe, there was that real kind of, no, I'm going in today. In the end, I started to drive up every day. So that in itself was a feat. I lasted on the trains for about a year and a half. More because I know people say I can't get a seat on a train. Well, try getting a seat. Although in the 80s,
Yeah.
I used to stand
Slam doors, benches, weren't they? Yeah.
I used to, a lot. I used to stand from Chatham.
The old private coach as well. Do you remember them?
Yeah, smoking coaches.
Yeah, smoking
as well.
So from Chatham, that's got to be like an hour.
I think it was about an hour.
Yeah.
And, fainted a couple of times, just standing up so long with no one picking you up.
Yeah.
You come, obviously not fainting for very long, but you come to and everyone's looking at you. Oh. So in the end, I thought, well, I might as well just be in my own environment. I love driving. And I drove every day for nearly 8 years.
Right. And so that's how long you did the commute for? Yeah, was it 8 years?
So I was there 10, just over 10.
Yeah.
And commuted for just over 8.
See, I feel in my head, your parents hold the record for commuting to London. I just don't know how they've done it for so long.
They've literally just retired, haven't they? And
35 years, I think.
Yeah, 35, 40 years. My dad, definitely.
Just commuting to
Whereabouts
London.
was he driving to, like from and to?
Oh, he started in sort of Gillingham, then Rainham, and then for the last nearly 20 years from Sittingbourne all the way up to Cannon Street. Yeah. London Bridge, Cannon Street.
So, and that's train, not really 99.99% train.
I remember me and my mum having to drive up once when we worked in the same office, and I drove and had to park. Parking up in London's a nightmare anyway, so you have to find the biggest car park and get your space and stuff like that. And I think that might have even been my first time driving in London, and it was scary.
There are a couple of really good car parks. That's in the Minories. There's a fantastic car park. You can park there on a Saturday, I think, for a tenner.
Yeah.
A lot of the football fans park there. Mark, I was born in London. I love London.
Charlton fan because it's Woolwich.
I'm not actually a football fan at all. My brother-in-law and my nephew are Arsenal fans.
Oh, right, okay.
Roger, my business partner, is a Chelsea fan. My husband's former MD is Tottenham fan. So I guess knowing people who love football, you just try and take a bit of an interest.
In theory, Arsenal are Woolwich. They originally, they're Woolwich Arsenal.
Someone told me, someone told me that the other day, actually.
Because there's a place up there called Woolwich Arsenal.
The Woolwich Arsenal is,
yeah. But no, we still go up, minimum twice a month. And we drive up, we now live in Dover.
Oh, really? I didn't realise you were that far down.
Yeah, we moved there 10 years ago.
Right.
Just better air. Better. Yeah, we used to live in Sittingbourne, actually, when the children were at school. Mark's factory's in Sittingbourne. Nothing wrong with Sittingbourne.
What does he make? Do you mind saying what he makes?
I don't mind at all. It's really unique. So he's in the defence sector.
Oh, right.
So they make, you would have seen on the television in Ukraine, the soldiers with the NLAW guns on their shoulders, so the big guns. So they make all the cases for guns like NLAW, weapons. They do lots of other things. So they're into they call it preservation. So if you think about bridges, like big bridges that we have in the UK, you think that their foundations and their struts are going down into the earth.
Yeah.
So they all have to be protected.
Yes.
With plastic, dehumidified, all of those things. So quite complex feats of engineering. Really.
Oh, definitely, especially when they're putting them into the water as well. You're like, how do they even do that? They must just create something, pump it out, and then
put it
do
in.
what they got to do.
He's worked for the same company since he was 19 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they started on the shop floor.
Yeah.
His first job was, he literally has, swept the floor. They sent him out to measure the original Concorde, tip to tip, span to span, so they can make a big plastic bag for it to dehumidify it, to preserve it. And I think we were saying the other day we must go. We think it might be in Duxford Museum.
Oh, right.
I think they moved these things.
One?
The preserved one. I think they it was the first one.
Right. Okay.
But they move these things around, don't they? So that people can see them.
That is a shame, isn't it? How we used to be able to go Mac 2 and now we can't go Mac 2.
There's talk about it coming back, isn't there? I read something vaguely something the other day about potentially a form of Concorde coming back. So it interesting when you think about all these things, isn't it?
You obviously think that all this helped towards your company now and how you sort of portray yourself in the business world now.
Yes,
and it's
I do.
sort of made you have a backbone, really, of this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I would credit News International with almost everything. If I'm honest, you managed budgets.
Mm-hmm.
So as you grew your career there, and they grew you quickly. Otherwise, you didn't stay.
Oh, right.
They would very quickly flush out somebody. At the end of the day, they, all organisations need to make money, don't they? They need to make a profit, and therefore they had to have the right people to make the money. And you're right. Back then there was no not going to work. There was no can I go. In hindsight, it was too hard.
When you think about it, when there's a disaster, when there's a bombing, they've still got to report on it.
Yeah, of course.
The journalists are out there doing the hard yards, aren't they? Absolutely. Without the journalists, there are no newspapers, to be fair. And I have massive respect for journalists. I think they do, even today. They have to be multimedia. They do an amazing job keeping our news fresh, particularly at a time like this. With sort of Israel, Iran. Hats off to them all, and thank you very much for all they do. But I do think that what they taught all of us who worked at News in was how to be a business person, right? In our own individual teams, making sure that we knew that we were making money, and if we were losing money, that we knew about that as well. It was frowned upon to lose money, so I think that taught me everything that I've got. And then secondarily, KM Group. Exactly the same. Back in the day, chairman was Edwin Borman. It was owned by the Borman family. It's now owned by Isle of Media. So, things move on, don't they? Businesses change hands. But because it was family owned and family run, there was a lot of transparency. So again, you were responsible for your budget. You had to bring it in on budget, and you had to make money to pay the salaries of the people working for you.
So currently you are, how many projects would you say you've got going on at the moment?
I was trying to add this up the other day. Live, we've got at least 20 projects live.
Wow. And what would you say your favourite sort of niche area in these projects is? Is there one that you think, actually, this is, I know you said earlier about arts and culture.
For me, it's definitely placemaking.
Right.
So the new project with Decorum, I really cannot wait to get my teeth into that. Obviously I've been looking, I'm quite old fashioned. I'll print a map off so that I can physically see the area. I don't particularly like looking at maps on the screen. I'll start notating on the map for, things that are key there, key infrastructure, key companies, big businesses. What's the makeup of a place? Is it Kent is actually a very creative county. Lots of creative businesses in Kent. So I'll dig deep to see what that particular area is like. Me and my colleagues, and I love helping people just strip it down, strip it back, because you can't be all things to all people. the same time, can you? You've got to have some clear messages. And that's what Steve Jobs was really great at doing. He had his magic, three things to talk about. And then you can spur off from there, can't you? What are the three things about the place? Might be 5, be 6, but let's try and just not be all things to all people.
You've got to keep stuff basic, bullet point type things. Yeah.
Think Sheffield, think making things.
Yeah.
It's that, isn't it?
Yeah. Still, straight away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Still.
And someone said that last night at the engagement session. He said, I really envy the northern towns because they are very good at articulating who they are and what they are and why. Why are they those things? So that really gets me excited.
And I suppose it must be hard doing your job because you must come under some scrutiny and some sort of bad press as such, really. How do you work through that? Because if you're talking to people and saying, what's good about because everyone nowadays is very negative towards anything. No one ever posts a good comment or a good review or anything. Everyone just looks at the negatives.
Well, we only notice the negatives.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is sad.
I mean, and it must be hard, you going into these places and saying, telling me what's good about your place. There must be people saying, this isn't good, this isn't good, this isn't. How do you deal with that?
So it's always good to have what-if people in the room. When I first started doing it, I'll be honest, there's been some hairy moments where I haven't been able to quite manage that situation. I always have ultimately managed it, but with the help of others, I've managed it. The more you do, the better you get. And you realise that actually having the what-if people in the room are actually really good. Because typically what happens is we're humans and we have a bit of herd mentality. And when if a person does unfortunately start to pile in negatively, other people then gather round and start to do the very opposite and say, that's true, but this is brilliant. And what we're here to do is accentuate the positives. We all know the negatives. We don't need to accentuate them any more than we already do. But it's accentuate the positives. And typically, we find that people generally, if they're going to be bothered to spend their time free of charge to be in a room and to spend time talking about their place, typically they're going to come armed with some pretty good stuff. And then the other thing that happens when you're in the room is they know what's going on. They think, okay, so this process is starting to crystallize for me a little bit. I can see here what they're trying to do. They're trying to help us articulate, the really important things about our place. And so you get a little bit of that excitement. Typically you get that excitement. And that does happen more times than not.
Is anywhere ever you've gone somewhere and you thought, you weren't really looking forward to it or somewhere, but it's actually really shocked you, the positive contributions that people, and it's opened your eyes up to this new community?
Or even the area, you're thinking, how am I going to try and make this area shine? And then...
it's a good question. I'm a little bit glass half full.
Okay.
So I quite like gritty places anyway. I live in Dover. People never say nice things about Dover. And I think it's good for places to have a little bit of challenge. We've all got areas that aren't quite so pretty, aren't quite so
everywhere's got its rough road or something. Everywhere. Even like Sevenoaks and places like that.
Well, what you'll often find in those places, though, are the people with the heart of gold.
Exactly. That's the thing.
It's the people. Yeah. So in answer to the question, I don't think I really have. I mean, we've worked with, where have we worked? With Ashford, with Folkestone, with Dover, Sevenoaks, with Medway, Decorah. We've worked with in the area before. We've worked with Essex, all different sorts of places, and with other projects that we work with our developments. So we work with developers. So West Sussex, Rugby in Warwickshire. I've been fortunate enough to work with a client in the north, in the Tees area. Every place can have its real negative points, but I don't know. I don't think I've ever gone in and thought, wow, that's better than I thought it was. I go in thinking, let's uncover the golden nuggets here. I think if I thought the other way, I probably wouldn't achieve what we're achieving. And and of course, the team at PB as well, they that's the culture we're breeding, is to think about what's good about a place.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone wanting to go into your field of work?
I've actually been asked that recently by quite a few people, because with the Creative Southeast project, we've been surrounding ourselves with creative businesses, not all exactly in the sort of the creative digital communications world. I've said to everybody, think collaboration. Don't try and do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
It's not the advice I would have given 25 years ago. Absolutely not. I would have been saying, no, you've got to strive out there. You've got to do this yourself. You've got to make your mark. But I think our sector particularly has become super competitive. And going back to AI, that's where it probably has been a little bit of a challenge. Do I think that will continue going forward? I do share your view. I think AI, it's always going to be here. I think it's great for pricing and consolidating lots of information that you would have spent hours and hours trawling through. I think it does a really good job at that. But I think it doesn't have the human touch that we have. But there are people out there using it in a creative way, and some businesses aren't questioning that. So I think, collaborating is really important. And genuinely, as an agency, we are currently going through a whole series of coffee meetings with other people that have got very small micro businesses. So, my colleague Lisa's recently had a coffee with a PR, predominantly a PR, used to work for our agency that I've kept in touch with over the years. We've just used another PR on a project which we had an internal resource issue as well. So we've just commissioned another PR. We work with cameramen, women, videographers. And that's what we are spending this year doing, is reaching out to people like yourselves to say, how can we better work together?
Really it's always nice to have these people on your books, because you can do you find that the younger generation are coming in with more sort of creative risks as such? Are they taking more creative risks in some way?
Can you give that a point to your mouth, please? Even though you've been doing it 2 years, you're still
Sorry.
Well, I am moving. Just been told off there, Rachel, I think.
Every podcast she gets told off about the mic.
Oh, I don't know. First of all, there's not been a whole lot of recruitment taking place the last couple of years.
Okay.
It has been a very tight marketplace for everybody. I talked to lots of other creative business owners. It's not something that I'm hearing. So we certainly haven't had a big recruitment drive. And actually, when we have recruited, we've recruited recently, we have gone for experience. So that's just what we needed. We needed experience over youth, if you like. I'm a college governor.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I find the young people that I get to meet through college, and I've been a college governor for 10 years.
Wow.
I find them just inspiring. And actually, they're not all about AI. They're quite rounded, because the college education that they're getting is teaching them where it's appropriate to use AI. And risk, interestingly, is something that they are taught to consider. So, whatever the risk might be, whether it's if you're going to use AI for something, and that will present some risk for you, they teach them to use AI within a set of controls. If you think about, one of our colleges has a really good, the Folkestone College, it's EKC Group. So I'm a governor for EKC Group. So we have the Edge down at Folkestone, which lots of video, lots of, photography. And again, they are bringing the young people on to consider the world that we're living in, and to consider what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. Things like when you're pointing a camera at somebody, do you have permissions? What do you do with those permissions? How do you store them? If somebody doesn't want to be videoed, what do you do then? What's your second option? So I find young people nowadays incredibly astute, clever, refreshing. Would we take college leavers on? We would. We just haven't had that level of work over the last couple of years. Let's face it, it's been tough, isn't it? To be fair.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we met you guys when you approach us about
I approach you guys.
about the Pride in Medway, and we worked with you last year, and we loved working with you guys. It was lovely. It's always a pleasure to have a meeting with you guys and work with you, and that's really good. So we've got another Pride in Medway this year.
We have.
Are you going to that?
So I am going, and we're at a different venue, aren't we? So we're at the Corn Exchange.
Corn Exchange. We was only there Saturday, weren't we?
Yeah. So you know it, which is good, isn't it? Yeah. So
it's a lovely big venue.
Yeah.
Lovely big venue. Yeah. It'd be lovely.
It's a bit of a homecoming for Pride in Medway because
was it there once before then?
It was. So Pride in Medway, the history of it, the potted history, it was actually started at the Kent Messenger Group.
Right.
So it was started by a former editor called Ron Green and his wife Pauline Green. They were the impetus behind it. They drove it very successfully for the first 5 years. So at the time I worked at the Kent Messenger Group, and my involvement with it was from a marketing perspective. So we would pick up some of the marketing for it. And when I left KM, Ron said, look, there isn't really a place for this here. Nobody really wants to pick it up. Would you take it with you? So that was how good our relationship was. So I took it as a freelance job, and then ultimately rolled it into Pillory Barn. And when I was delivering the events in the early days, they were at the Corn Exchange. And what happened is that it actually got too big for the venue. So it really mushroomed. We had a little bit more sponsorship back in the days, but back in the day, you know how hard it is to get sponsorship now. I mean, it's really tight out there, isn't it? And so we moved it so it got too big, but we also then sponsorship dwindled. So the college came on as a sponsor and then offered the space that we've all delivered it in.
That was an impressive little venue last year. And it wasn't even small, but it's just, I love the way they've done it.
Yeah.
You know?
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, because we've been there when the seats are out as well. So it's like... And
for a dance show.
Yeah, our daughter had a dance show there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
I just don't think many people know there's a venue there they can hire.
No.
I think that's... And
although I do think they keep it quite busy themselves,
they do.
Which is probably
we spoke
why.
to Simon. I forget Simon's
Simon Cook.
Simon Cook.
And the lovely Simon Cook.
Yeah, he's lovely, and we're having discussions with him as well. And I'm gonna use some of the kids at the college as well.
Brilliant.
Get them to do some filming to create some exposure and portfolio for themselves.
It's hard to get the exposure otherwise.
Yeah.
They don't, do they? And I know it's hard work. It is hard work working with college students because, you know, there's the curriculum you have to follow. You know, you have to sort of make sure that you've got your health and safety in place. But good on you, both of you, because you know, they're not going to get the experience otherwise, are they?
And these are kids that are interested in this industry. You know, it's fine if you say, come and have a what do they call it, work experience with us. But if you don't really want to be there and your mum's just pushed you because you like photography, you might not like video. You might not like weddings and organising 120 people in one group shot. You know, you might not like all of that side of things. But these kids know, actually, I like working behind the camera. I like working with, you know, video. I like doing that.
It's the creating as well.
Yeah.
It's creating a story as well. It's not just the wedding side of things either.
No, I'm really glad that you've both worked in the Corn Exchange because, again, it will be, you know, for us, we haven't been there for some years. We know the team really well there. We used to do some marketing for Sue and the team. Sue's amazing, absolutely incredible. You know, sadly, again, all of their budgets have, you know, been quite rightly, you know, the council's having to be really careful about how they spend the money. So I think it'll be a bit of a showcase for the Corn Exchange. We're going to have a lot of people in the room on the night. There'll be over, I think it's over 150, maybe 170 people.
Wow.
So again, the same numbers that we had last year. Now, I'm not so certain we're going to have, you know, the flash mob type entertainment going on. You know, I don't think there's a staging there for that.
Rachel's going to do it on crutches.
On crutches, yeah.
I won't be on my crutches by then, I'm hoping.
It's not that far off. It's not that far off.
I can push myself.
I love that event. And I know Vince Maple, you know, he's the best.
Cut him in half. He's got Medway written for him.
Completely.
100%. Really nice guy. Really
Completely.
Nice. He loves his live music as well. And
Yeah.
I've got a lot of time for Vince. Actually.
He after last year's, he collared us and he said, right, we need the date for next year because I'm taking Ned to Butlins. So I think they've got a family holiday planned, you know, literally the day after, I think. So we pegged the date down. And, you know, when he stands on that stage and he talks about the Medway community, and it's right from his heart.
100%.
None of that is,
you can tell when someone's just saying it for the sake of saying it, and Vince isn't. Medway's Hagrid, he is.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah.
When I was there, because we filmed countless sort of presentations and awards and everything like that, but this one, because obviously you grow up in Medway, it just felt really personal, and like the stories that you hear. I mean, we had to wipe tears away several times.
Miranda, I cry on every wedding speech. Imagine what I'm like filming that. I'm a nightmare filming it.
And you listen to these stories and you just think, wow, if this wasn't around, these people would go unnoticed.
They would.
And it's such a shame that more people aren't coming out and just praising these people that do amazing jobs.
Yeah.
And it's just
we're never short of nominations.
No, not at all.
And I noticed last year that we actually had a real new batch of nominations. Sometimes it can get a little bit repetitive because people absolutely love and respect the work that is being done for them in the community. So they constantly want to thank the people that are helping them, you know, whatever that cause may be. This last year, there was some real new ones coming through, which to me says the word is spreading. Interestingly, Rachel, we've got a relatively younger member. I don't know whether Jess is the youngest out of all of us, but Jess does all of the social media on Pride of Medway. And I think it's through the work that she's been doing that we're actually getting quite a good cross-section of nominations, because the nominations largely come in through, the council are really good at getting their staff generating nominations. People like the team down at Chatham Historic Dockyard, our team.
Hopefully this has helped where we have a couple of guests on here.
I think it helps massively.
Good.
Because you had Vince and Simon on.
Vince the first year with Matt.
Yeah.
And then we had Simon and Simon.
On. Yes. Simon from Wilmot Dixon.
Which made it really, really hard for Rachel. She had three Simons.
It was like Simon, and they all went yes.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does help. The more of it we can do, the better. And I can only see Pride of Medway going from strength to strength. I'm hoping as the economy recovers, we can attract just a few more sponsors. This is, for some people, this night that we give them, the gala evening, is their first experience in gala evening. They've never had the opportunity to come out and have a really beautiful meal.
And some of the hardest thing for you guys is trying to talk them into coming out because they're so nervous.
Yeah, correct.
I know our winner that we chose, she literally had to say, look,
you need to be there.
You need to be there. Read between the lines here. We would love you to be there, because she was so nervous about coming out.
Yeah, and people genuinely are nervous, aren't they? You know? But then when they're there,
time of their life.
They do have the time of their life, and also they then meet other like-minded people.
Yeah.
I think last year was the little girl that I think it was the boy who was in a wheelchair who won an award, and his sister
ran up
was just standing on the side, and then his mum went, "You can go," and she just ran out to him, cried her eyes out, gave him the biggest hug, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I just cried my eyes out.
You had a lot to contend with last year, didn't you?
I was sitting there going, "Oh god, I got to wipe my tears." Take photos.
It was a hard one.
It was hard.
It was hard.
But it was. I mean, you look around the room and not And there wasn't one table that you sat with or spoke to that didn't say, this person does this person was so proud of this person, so proud of, and it was just amazing to talk to everyone as well.
I won't name the person. I sat next to one of the sponsors, a grizzly, hardened man in his late 50s.
Crying his eyes out.
And did I, on occasion, see the hand go up to the corner of the eye and let it rest there? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And that's how it grabs people, isn't it? And,
definitely.
yeah.
He says while crying now. Just thinking about that little kid.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
And she was so lovely to her brother.
Yeah.
So lovely. Yeah.
Should we ask Miranda some of those questions? We get to pull them out the cup.
Oh, God.
Then we can
Are these going to be horrible?
No.
Yeah.
I said no.
They're just
Simon
random.
said yes.
They're just random.
Really random questions
3.
for you.
Maybe take 3. Take one at a time if you want. We'll see how good they are before we let you take any more.
Right, should we do the first one?
Yeah.
You've just been arrested. What do your friends assume you did?
I've never heard. That's the first one to be read out. Never heard that one.
Okay, to be fair, anyone that knows me really well knows that I am a goody two-shoes. I am a real...
So they'll be like, what did she do?
That there would be a campaign to release me because... No. Maybe at the very, very worst, something, maybe political protest or something.
Oh, right,
but,
okay.
Even with my husband, who can sometimes, park somewhere he might not be able or should park. No, absolutely not. So no, that's a non-question. Yeah, non-question, not a rule breaker.
Wait, you could get your company to do the campaigning though, couldn't they?
Yeah.
To get you out.
No, they'd probably leave me there, actually. They'd probably go, God, for that, she's locked up. If your pet could talk, what's the first thing they say about you? Mum, you never feed me, Dad always does it. 100%. I have 2 black cats and they absolutely love Mark to bits. I love them too, but he's the one that feeds them.
Fair enough.
And so even when I arrive home early, I'm like, no, I'll wait until he comes home. Yeah, no. What's one conspiracy theory you secretly think
is true?
Might be true? Oh. Look, you've got to know me. I'm a military child. I don't know. Maybe that there really are aliens, maybe? Did everyone say that?
Well, yeah, because of the odds. The odds are there, aren't they?
Really?
There's got to be, hasn't there?
Yeah. I mean, we can't be the only ones, can we?
Well, no. There's literally an infinity amount of planets and stars out there. There's got to be.
I think that's probably the only one where I'm a little bit like...
Have we come in contact with them? No. Is it possible?
Well, we don't know.
Well, anything's possible. But
we don't know if we come in contact with them.
It's a distance thing, isn't it?
You two could be aliens. I wouldn't know, would it?
No, exactly. Feel like it sometimes.
Yes, so do I.
It's been lovely having you on. It's been lovely working with you guys. You can plug your business before you go if you want.
Absolutely.
I think I've plugged Pillory Barn quite enough, to be fair. If I was going to plug one thing, I think I would plug our team because I was saying to our directors only last week, it's really hard running a business right now for everybody. And it's really tough keeping the staff because it's not, it's not easy. The pace of work can be full on 1 minute, not the next, because the pipeline is really still very sticky. And I talk to a lot of people and everyone is saying the same thing. We're still not back to full tilt. We know where we are, where we know we're safe and where we've got, years ahead planned.
Do you think that's due to COVID?
I think
it helped.
COVID definitely didn't help.
Yeah.
It didn't help. I think it gave some businesses a real boost. To be fair, we did boom a little bit, but then we sort of flattened down. I think really it's and this is not a political comment. It's change of government, possibly pace of change not being as quick as people wanted it to be, and then you add in all the things that anyone else would reel off: Ukraine war, new government in America, the Middle East, and all layer, cost of living crisis, energy costs. I just don't think it makes for a very good business environment. I'm not sure in all the time that I've been at work, there has ever been so many things.
No, it's relentless.
It is relentless.
Well, just when you think it's going to calm down, something else happens.
And the thing is, so many people wouldn't expect a business like ours, like yours, everything like that, to be affected by these social.
Only this morning, you and I drove past a station. It's gone up 5 pence.
Yeah,
you know, it's everything.
Yeah,
there's everything.
Yeah, that's
there's
coming
always
down the
a
tracks
knock-on.
very quickly.
Yeah.
The cost of the petrol. Yeah, and I think So again, genuinely, I was thinking about this last week. I knew that when it all broke, I thought, right, okay, fuel is going to be the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a hybrid business. If it gets to the point where fuel is exorbitant, what we can say to our staff to help ease is actually, rather than coming in 3 days a week, come in 2 days a week, or come in 1 day a week, or actually don't come in at all.
And that's one thing that COVID helped with, wasn't it? The Zooms.
The ability to work from home.
Yeah, I wish I had shares in Zoom, didn't you?
Well, yeah, exactly.
in 2018 or something like that.
But our team has largely stuck with this. They've stuck with the up, the down, the up, the down. Our Christmas party last year wasn't quite as good as sometimes it is because we're watching the pennies. We're being a responsible business. And I just, if I was to thank anybody or to give a plug for anybody, it would be the team, because they are absolutely brilliant.
And how many people have?
We're 14.
Oh, that's a big team.
Yeah, so it's quite a responsibility for the directors, really, because you do think we're paying people's mortgages, we're helping people have fun with their families and all of those things that make work slightly more bearable.
Yeah. Brilliant. Lovely having you on.
Thank you both. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Rachel.
We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Feel like Jerry Springer.
Well, you are a bit. Kent's Jerry Springer.
Take care of yourself and each other.
Club Awesome, for autistic children and their families, a place where everyone belongs and fun knows no age limit. Put your business in front of 30,000 new customers with the Hindsight Directory. This A5 full-colour magazine is delivered by Royal Mail to Maidstone, Gravesend, Medway and Bromley, with more areas to come. Visit hindsightdirectory.co.uk. Connect by Tech, business communication experts. Based in Kent, they can reach the entire UK. Whether you want to save money on your business phone systems, mobile phones and devices, internet, or seek cheaper energy bills, they've got you covered. Visit them on connectbytech.co.uk or call them on 01634 565 565.
New Digital, helping businesses build their online presence with web design, SEO, Google Ads, and social media. Get 10% off when you quote Cherrywood today. Visit their website at nudigitalera.co.uk.
Bond Carpentry, where precision meets creativity.
From bespoke cupboards to second fix carpentry, garden houses, and even the Cherrywood podcast sign. Call 07738 732 931.
Bond Carpentry, licensed to drill.